Welcome, everybody, to the Monday Night Tours. I am your guide on this magical journey through the Monday Night Wars, Josh Kaiser, and I am joined today by my fellow tour guide, Mr. Kyle Hogan. How's it going?
No touching the exhibits, everybody. What's going on? See, it was like a joke because I'm doing like a tour.
I see what you did there.
Okay, all right, cool.
That joke will fall flat, much like I felt like the October 9th, 1995 editions of Nitro and Raw fell flat, which we're going to get into today. And, you know, I gotta say, it's almost a little bit of a spoiler. A little bit disappointed in the way these shows kind of happened. After last week, I thought was just such a good show and led to some big build-ups this week. But, you know, you'll see why as we get into it. And, of course, if you watched it on the network, you may feel differently or feel the same. That said, Kyle, we opened up with Nitro, and we got a recap of Hogan being attacked by the Dungeon of Doom, which, again, happened last week. The second time his neck was snapped in, you know, a span of a couple of weeks. So, really...
Get my neck snapped once, shame on you.
Right, exactly. After that recap, of course, we let you know that we are live from the Windy City. So, yet again, going on our theory that if you're in a major city... Nitro's going to let you know. You're going to see skylines. You're going to see it mentioned multiple times throughout the show, and they want to let you know that they're showcasing in a big town.
Yeah, they're gonna pander to anything that's Chicago, and we'll definitely see that coming up as well.
And well, that's a nice lead-in because as soon as that, after we see this pan of the skyline of Chicago, we go down to the commentary crew, and they have their backs turned to us. And why? Because they're rocking Chicago Bears jerseys. Mongo McMichael, of course, rocking his jersey number. We got Bischoff with the number 1. And Heenan with what looked like a question mark. I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be a 2 or a question mark. I thought it was a question mark, but I wasn't sure. Did you ever get confirmation if it was a question mark, or did you just feel the same way that I did?
I think it was a question mark, and if that is the case, where can I buy that jersey?
It's custom, man.
I would never wear a Chicago Bears jersey. But I would if on the back it said Heenan with a question mark on it.
Yeah, that would be great. After that, then they're starting to spin around. Bischoff needs a little bit of help from Mongo because he doesn't seem like he knows where he's at.
He doesn't know his left from his right.
Right, and then Mongo goes to help Heenan, and Heenan says, "I don't need any help being turned around," which just made me laugh. The reason they're here wearing the jerseys, they're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the '85 Bears, of course, one of the best teams in NFL history, and their Super Bowl run there. I find it a little funny, though, Kyle, that, you know, of course, Mongo, you know, former Bear, he's got the NFL background, but they bury football on a weekly basis on this show. You know, you don't need to watch Monday Night Football. The action's all here. And here they are supporting the Chicago Bears. I thought it was a little strange. What did you think?
Well, I think they gotta meet that somewhere in the middle because, you know, Steve McMichael, you know, he's got his Super Bowl ring. He can't shit on his hometown. So he's got to pander. So this is the 1 week where I think, you know, they got to pay their respects, or else that's just going to make, you know, he's got so many friends in the NFL, as he keeps on saying. Like, all the really good players are like his best friends. They're like drinking buddies, according to what he says. So, you know, you got to make sure that you got to teeter that line between entertainment and, you know, being offensive or, you know, or showing disrespect to your peers. So good on you, Mongo.
Yep. Then the commentary team is interrupted by the Stinger. He shows up, gets on the headset there, and starts saying that he's going to, you know, promises that he's going to help come to a resolution with this Lex Luger Macho Man situation. So nothing like the peer mediator that is known as the Stinger to come in and help two friends work things out. So, you know, a little tease for what might be happening later in the show. And then
which is good because I feel like Sting is not doing anything.
Yeah, he really hasn't been on the show much. And that said,
other than wrestling, he's probably had about as many matches as anybody. But he really doesn't have anything really to.
Well, he's not in any big storylines, and even the matches he's been having have been, you know, other than the first match where he wrestled Flair at, you know, Mall of America, he's been kind of just in and out, kind of, you know, hey, by the way, he's our U.S. champ, but you really don't know anything.
But don't worry, we're making up for it with this next match.
That's right. Our opening match, of course, Sting going to be defending that United States Championship against the Shark. The Shark, I found it very entertaining that he hails from Tsunami. I always appreciated when these wrestlers that had the character backgrounds, like Undertaker's from Death Valley, things like that, that Shark actually hails from a tidal wave. Like, it's not even a location. But I just thought that was entertaining. And I'm rambling a little bit because I've actually probably talked more about his location than this match will last. Because the match, Kyle, is basically there's a little bit of chaos at the beginning of the ring. Your boy Nick Patrick still doesn't know how to officiate, apparently.
So, I mean, seriously, you don't ring the... Just because somebody feels like punching somebody doesn't mean that's when the bell rings, okay?
Yeah, and that said, they wrestle around for about 20 seconds, and then Stinger gives them 2 Stinger splashes back-to-back, which I thought were a little strange because Shark was, like, not fully in the corner of the ring when it happened. He was almost like... I don't know. You could have fit like another one of him between the ring post and him, but they did it back to back, and then Sting went to the top and did the top rope crossbody for the 3 count. This match was over literally in a minute and a half tops. I don't know what else to say about this match, Kyle. It looks like Sting doesn't have the Scorpion Death Drop or Death Lock at this point. I don't know if those are in his arsenal or not, but he's been winning with this crossbody block. And this match was bad. I'm giving it
was a dud. There was nothing bad about it. It was just a dud. Like, there's nothing about it.
It was a waste of time.
Yeah.
Other than you put Sting on your show. And actually, Shark, Earthquake, John Tenta, Golga, whatever you want to call him, he's actually, for a big man, he's a pretty good talent. And they could have actually had a decent match here if they let him, but gave no time. Anything else you want to add?
Which I think is going to be kind of the theme of this Nitro. There's a lot of things that seem rushed.
Yeah, which is weird. But anything you want to add to this match, Kyle?
I just thought that, once again, inconsequential match. I don't know if you gave your star rating. I think you said
I said 1 star. Yeah.
And I said 1.25 just because I don't think anyone screwed up anything. And I don't think anyone was too interested in the match. I don't think anyone thought that Shark was going to win. But seriously, it was just a big old lack of effort, whether that was on them or on creative. I would assume it's because of creative saying, hey, you guys got a minute and a half. But really, they wanted to go from that match and go right into the highlights of Hogan while they were talking about the highlights of this short little match. Like, they had to, like, Heenan had to, like, almost talk over Bischoff just to go over the highlights that they were playing because Bischoff was already moving on. And it was, like I said, I feel like it was kind of a disservice, especially to a company guy like Sting. And there was no music for Sting when he won. They couldn't even afford to do that for a match that didn't even last 2 minutes.
Which is interesting because on the point of music, Shark has music. And it's almost like a Jaws-like theme, which I kind of enjoyed. I kind of enjoy this Shark character. I'm going to be honest. Next to Earthquake, this might be my favorite thing that he ever did. But yeah, Sting gets pretty much, he's an afterthought.
He gets the shaft. He's the shafter today.
They opened with the recap of the Hogan situation. This match went about a minute and a half, and then right after they show the Hogan situation again, more recaps. And then of course we've got our Halloween Havoc promo, and they're talking about machine versus machine. They got this sumo wrestling match with their monster trucks and Hogan versus Giant. And it was at this point, Kyle, I wrote down in my notes, I said, I've seen, probably 15 Halloween Havoc promos now since we've been watching. And I don't know a single other match on this card. Now, that'll change as Nitro goes on.
Yeah, we'll find out
here.
later on, but you're right. I have no idea what else. As far as we're concerned, Halloween Havoc is just one match.
It's one match, and it's a sumo monster truck match, and then maybe
truck match.
And then so that's it. It's all I know. But again, that'll change shortly, and it's just as funny as I wrote it in my notes, and then I got an answer about 10 minutes later. Following that, though, we do have our Mr. JL versus Sabu match, sort of our ECW guys. They're back. Kyle, why don't you tell me what you thought about this match with the two ECW superstars here?
Well, at this point, I don't think both of them are ECW in that sense yet. I think Jerry Lynn is more of like the 96 or 97 to 98 is when his prevalence is a little bit known. And he also, I think he was one of the last ECW world champions.
I guess it's more they're best known for their runs.
Yes, they are
in
best
ECW.
known for their
That's
ECW tenure for sure.
Right.
But overall, match was fine. There was one funny quote from Mongo where he says where he was talking about when I think either Sting showed up or somebody who I think they were talking about Sting, but they were basically saying that he hadn't seen Heenan quiver. He hadn't seen anything quiver like that since he dropped Jello on the floor. So well done, Mongo.
Just ever the lyricist or something.
Yeah,
the dude
he's the Shakespeare of that commentary group.
Absolutely.
And then we got some Sabu chants, and then all of a sudden we got a couple Hogan sucks chants during this match, which was both surprising and at the same time, Chicago's kind of a partisan crowd a lot of times for wrestling.
I forgot. I was just thinking we were in Denver still. You're right. Yeah, we're in Chicago, and Chicago is definitely the smarky city. So
yeah, Philly is up there too, but Chicago, right. Yeah, Chicago is a contrarian crowd. They'll just say whatever they want to say. And at some point, Bischoff mentioned something about no holds are barred in this match, which I'm like, I didn't know that was a stipulation, which I don't think there was. I think Bischoff doesn't know what no holds barred actually means.
he heard it said one time in ECW.
Yeah. He heard it one time when he was watching Bill Watts wrestling back in the 80s. So Sabu's gonna fuck up a couple kicks. That's kind of his thing. I have a hard time discrediting him for trying to do something kind of hard, and because a lot of his moves are the choreography has to be good, and sometimes it's not good. But I credit Sabu for at least trying to not be a stiff wrestler. And then I also had to give a shout out to the old chairs that they're still using. I think we mentioned that in the first or second episode of Nitro, where they had the cushion on the chair still.
Oh yeah, yep.
But before the quote unquote steel chairs. So yeah, he used that for his air Sabu, which is when he jumps off the chair and goes for the guy in the railing. This was the first time that I actually heard some talking in a match where they're at the apron and you can hear Sabu tell JL, "Give me a German," and that's what happened. He reversed the move on the apron and gave him a nice German suplex. So, but I mean, overall, Sabu does win by catching JL. Now, you do mention in the notes that you thought this was a botch. I don't think it was, because you can see that JL puts his hands on the turnbuckle on the rope. So when he goes for the Frankensteiner, he goes down, but JL holds onto the rope. So he actually it wasn't a botch.
The reason I thought it might have been a botch is because it does look like he stops it, but it was weird to me. Is it felt slow the way he stopped it? It didn't feel like a fluid stop like you normally see. And then the fact that it just turned into him jumping, from the top. And while he's getting ready to jump, Sabu points to the air in his normal taunt, catches him in power bombs. It just felt, I don't know, the ending just felt awkward to me. Whether that was how it was planned or not, it felt off.
Right. No, it's the weird time to taunt is when you feel like you're not in front in the match. But ultimately, he does reverse whatever JL was doing from the top rope with a power bomb, puts him in the camel clutch, which I've never remembered that being Sabu's move, and wins with a submission. I actually gave this kind of probably a higher rating than it probably deserves. I just kind of appreciated that this was probably going to end up being probably one of the more high octane matches of the night, so I had to give that credit to it. So I give it 2 3/4 overall. Well done match, kind of chaotic, something you expect with a Sabu match. And also, I think Jerry Lynn is one of the most underrated wrestlers around. He's a great worker. He gets injured a shit ton in his career because of other wrestlers not being safe with Jerry Lynn. It's kind of like a running gag that Jerry Lynn always seems to get his shit kicked in whenever he's wrestling with somebody. Not much form in the storytelling outside of Sabu still being this unhinged maniac that attacks the wrestler after the match is over, but luckily he didn't get DQ'd this time. Yeah, so that's about it for me.
I'm not going to add much more. I'd give it 2 stars. I pretty much gave my spiel on why I thought the ending was a little weird. I just wanted to add one point, though. You mentioned how this is a high-octane match, and they're doing some different things that you're not used to seeing on Raw and Nitro at this point, with the air Sabu you mentioned off the chair, and they're doing these high-flying action moves. Well, at one point, and I didn't write down who, maybe Sabu or JL, one of them hits a drop kick to the other one. The entire commentary team go, "Oh my God,
oh, no, that's
did
in my
you
notes.
see that?"
That's in my notes. That was Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn did that kick. I said... nice drop kick in the corner by Jerry Lynn that the announcer booth popped for louder than they should have.
They went nuts for that drop kick. I just thought that was entertaining. For a match that had all these high-flying spots, it was the drop kick that got them all to lose their minds. But right. That's all I had.
Not like the air Sabu or like the power bomb reversal.
Yeah, nothing like that.
Just a drop kick.
Just the drop
standard
kick.
Drop kick. Nothing. It was a good drop kick. Don't get me wrong.
It was fine. It wasn't Alex Wright,
fine.
but it was.
It wasn't a Randy Orton drop kick.
Right.
But I mean.
After this match clears up and the chaos is gone, we got Mean Gene in the ring for his usual in-ring promo. This time we've got the Stingers in there with Lex Luger.
Which is weird that like they're already in the ring. Like it was weird when they were at the booth and you could hear like commotion, and I thought the commotion was actually Sabu and Jerry Lynn still fighting.
I think part of it was that. I think there's just a lot going on and they cut away from it.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden like I see Sting in the ring, and I'm like, are they really not going to like introduce anybody?
No
like,
introductions for Sting's been in the ring twice now and has had no introductions.
Right,
and you have
Luger's already in there with his suit and jeans, which I think you were going to talk about. Sorry.
Yeah, he's just that's fine. He's just rocking his little. Luger has different outfits every week, and I
swear to God, he didn't have that jacket. He probably came in with his white blouse.
Yep.
And blue jeans, and they were like, "Here, put on this suit."
And they open up. Sting calls out the Macho Man, says, "Hey, I need everyone out here." So Macho Man gets his entrance, got the theme music, all that.
Obviously, it's in his contract. Snap it to a Slim Jim.
Right. And basically, the whole thing is Sting calls Macho Man paranoid, or they all think he's paranoid because now he thinks Sting's in cahoots with the Dungeon of Doom, with Luger, the whole thing. Macho Man really is kind of paranoid at this point. He thinks everybody's out to get him. And then somewhere during this, they mention we now have some confirmed matches for Halloween Havoc, Kyle. We've got Lex Luger versus Ming, Macho Man versus Kamala. I mean,
said in the most casual way possible.
Just thrown in there.
Yeah.
By the way, these two have these two matches against guys that since Fall Brawl War Games they've had no interaction with. But what the hell? I haven't even seen Kamala. Since War Games, I don't think.
Which one was it where... Yeah, I think you're right, because the last time we saw Kamala was, I think, the Nitro before, when he got knocked out by inadvertently getting hit by Shark in the Scott Norton match.
Yep, you're right. So here we are. They both have a match. And then there's a stipulation added. Sting says, tell you what, guys, Lex, if you beat Ming, Macho Man, if you beat Kamala, then the two of you could have a match against each other and settle this. Does that make any sense to you?
No, he's like, I'm going to mediate this. I'm going to make sure you guys are, everything is settled and you guys are getting along. You guys have a match.
You guys are going to have a match, but you need to win your matches independently first, and then you'll have a match against each other.
Like, I'm sure we could probably just have a match regardless of outcome.
What does the outcome have anything to do? Like, I lost to Ming. I can't fight you now. Like, what is... I don't understand this.
Well, maybe the whole point is that you're supposed to win your matches so that way you're on your you got the momentum. Like you don't want to lose to Kamala and then expect to take on Lex Luger afterwards.
But it just seems so weird to me that they're throwing it. It's like they had no other. They have Hogan and Giant and this monster truck thing, and they're like, how do we fill this card out? We're going to give 2 matches to Lex, 2 matches to Macho Man. We want them to wrestle, but we need to give them some warm up matches. Which are what? Let's be honest. That's what's going to happen here. I mean, obviously, Ming is not going to beat Luger.
I'm pretty sure Luger's not going to beat Ming, and then Macho Man's going to job to Kamala,
right?
And then we don't have our match.
So that happens. After Sting basically calls Luger a pussy, Luger says, "Okay, I'm in. I'm down. Let's do this." And that's it. So Sting promised to sort things out, and we've got that. I would say Sting.
Don't hire Sting.
Don't hire Sting to be your mediator because he just does not get resolved.
But you know what? Who knows? At the end of Halloween Havoc, maybe Sting and Luger, after they duke it out one final time, they they shake hands and hug and they're best buds. So maybe Sting has a method to the Macho Madness.
Nice. I like that. So we'll see. We come back from commercial. We are live from Chicago again.
Just a reminder.
Just a little reminder. And then a limo pulls up, and they start talking about, oh, this is a big signing for us. It's a man who's been all over the world. He was in Japan. He was in Mexico. He was in Japan. I say that because they mentioned Japan multiple times.
I think they said Canada as well.
I think they did say that. And then the doors open, and out walks Chris Benoit.
On my top 10 list, he wouldn't have been in my top 20.
What's funny is obviously we know what kind of talent Chris Benoit turns out to be in the wrestling world, but to me, I never thought that he was going to get that kind of hype in WCW when he first showed up.
No way. Yeah, no way.
So I was very surprised by that.
Especially because I'm pretty sure that's all he actually has, like lines. He actually is like, WCW where the big boys play. He almost just promoed WCW. It seemed like, and I'm pretty sure those were all the words he says for 2 years.
That wouldn't surprise me. Just thought that was interesting though. So we got our unexpected debut of Chris Benoit, which I feel like if it was 95, would fall flat with a lot of people, unless you're like the hardcore fans who followed like New Japan and stuff. I can't imagine that the average WCW watcher would be like, oh my God, that's Chris Benoit.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, that's so weird. If anything, do you think that the more casual person would know who Eddie Guerrero is or know Chris Benoit, or do you think it's the same?
I think it's about the same in that regard.
'Cause I know the Guerrero family is
I guess
like gods
maybe
in the wrestling world.
I would say I would lean towards Eddie, but I don't think the casual fan's going to know one from the other back in 95.
Sure, and it's not like Benoit comes from like a lineage, like a family wrestling dynasty like the Guerreros.
Sure. So I thought it was strange, but welcome Chris Benoit to Nitro. We'll have to see when he wrestles here in the future. After that, we get Disco Inferno showing up. He's got his boombox out by the entrance way, and he's dancing and doing his thing. I gotta admit, Disco Inferno getting more airtime than like majority of the roster. So
I think he's up there with Luger now with how much TV time he's getting.
Seriously, he might be showcased more than Sting, which is sad.
Yeah,
but
that's actually very accurate.
So then Big Bubba walks out, stares him down, threatens him, so he lowers the volume on his boombox. And Big Bubba enters the ring, and he's got a match against Road Warrior Hawk. So then Road Warrior Hawk comes out, looks at Disco, keeps walking. Disco grabs a WCW hat and throws it on one of the spikes on the shoulder pads, which I thought was...
I think he stole the hat from a kid in the stands.
I couldn't figure out where he got it from, but I thought it was
funny.
funny.
He was running down the entranceway, and on the right side, he just like sees a kid wearing the hat, which, for all we know, is completely staged, and that wasn't even his hat.
Sure.
And he just took it off the guy's head and put it on there. I would assume this is a TV company trying to do a wrestling show. I'm pretty sure that was staged.
I would imagine so. So we got the Road Warrior Hawk Big Bubba match. Not a ton for me to say in this match. I mean, they had a classic. It felt like a classic, 80s, 90s wrestling match with what we'd expect from Hawk and Big Bubba.
Yeah, a lot of attacking in the corner, types of stuff. Although I said I do have to give one credit. By the way, rest in peace, both of those guys. But I'm going to say Big Boss Man. I cannot say Big Bubba without laughing or forgetting. But he there's a point where he gets thrown into the corner, but instead he slides under the ropes, goes around the turnbuckle, and then rolls back in, and then goes for like a clothesline. He ends up getting like back body dropped or something later. But I was like, wow, that was like a cool 4 seconds of like athleticism by a
Big Boss
Man's 400-pound man.
I think he's very underrated. I think he had a great career, and I think he was pretty solid in the ring and actually decent.
I feel like his shtick was more popular than his wrestling ability. It was good enough. It was good enough to get by, but the persona of Big Boss Man is more popular than his in-ring talent.
That's fair. The match doesn't last long, though, because eventually Disco Inferno does show up, starts dancing on the apron. Hawk comes over, attempts to try to rip his shirt, but I think it didn't rip the way they wanted it to. And Disco's also wearing some sort of like weird ladies flowery blouse thing. Yeah, it was kind of strange.
He probably stole it from Luger's
Luger's collection.
Yep.
So Disco starts running to the entranceway. Hawk follows him, attacks him there, and eventually gets counted out. So Big Bubba is your winner by countout. This is a 1 1/4 star match because there really wasn't much of a match, which seems to be the theme of the day. But I did appreciate the fact that it ended in a countout, so I gave it an extra quarter star. That's why it's 1 1/4. Kyle, anything you want to add in your rating?
I mean, I also gave 1 1/4 stars. I do appreciate that. I don't know what your ratings are before we actually talk about them. So you and I gave the same exact one. Once I gave the extra quarter for the fact that Bubba had a little flash in the pan, speed and athleticism for a short time. It's almost like when you hold the turbo button in NBA Jam and you can only hold it for like 3 seconds and then it's depleted. That's basically what Bubba did.
Oh yeah.
Totally inconsequential match though, other than just pushing that Disco is there and kind of funny and being comedic relief. And hopefully we're going to see more Disco in the ring. But at this point, I feel like Disco is more important and more valuable. Doing what he's doing.
Entertaining.
Right now.
Yeah, I think he's just there more for the entertainment, the comedic side, the butt of the jokes, being kind of a whipping stick, a whipping boy, if you will. So we'll see what happens to him as we go forward at this point. After this, though, we get Mean Gene back in the ring. He calls out the Hulkster. Hogan comes out in all black. Black neck brace, sunglasses, bandana, shirt, his cross, pants, belt,
Please tell me you at least laughed that the neck brace was black.
It was. I mean, the guy, he literally, head to toe was in black. I thought it was funny. But I had to do a double take. I thought I was watching the wrong Nitro for a second because it looked like the Hollywood Hogan sort of...
I was waiting for Jimi Hendrix music to start playing. Well, then again, it's the WWE Network, so I don't know what they're playing.
Well, yeah, you're not going to hear that, but... It was kind of funny. Hogan immediately tells Jimmy Hart to shut up, and he was going to start cutting his promo. So you almost get like a Hogan with an attitude here. So kind of early signs. If you ever wanted to see, this is a year before the turn. Kind of interesting to see Hogan kind of cutting this promo here. Does threaten to end the Giant tonight, just like he did his father at the Pontiac Silverdome.
Brother.
But of course the Giant is banned from the arena and there's a restraining order and all kinds of things. So Gene said that's not going to happen. So then Hogan starts calling out a New York promoter who was struggling after he challenged the Hulkster. Obviously, calling out Vince McMahon, which I thought was a little interesting here. Really kind of trashed him for a minute. But
yeah, I felt like with everything that was going on, I felt like Hulk was kind of like, look, I made a lot. I made a lot of money with that company. I really am not in business to talk shit about them. So I found it very interesting that he now has also joined that side of the line. Right,
absolutely. My favorite part though, he started talking about, if you burn the American flag or you spray graffiti on the Washington Monument, that's desecrating national, property. It's much like what the Dungeon of Doom did when they shaved my mustache. Hogan really feels highly about himself if his mustache is on the levels of the American flag being burned and the Washington Monument being desecrated. But good for him.
Hey, I know is the Washington Monument didn't sell out the Pontiac Silverdome, brother.
That's true. Hogan does say something about defeating Gorgeous George, which I thought was random.
Which I'm pretty sure 3 people in that crowd even knew who that guy was.
Yeah, right. After this, though, you start to hear Gene starts to look confused or concerned, and then some sirens sound louder, and they cut to the back, and the Dungeon and Doom are driving up in Giant's monster truck, and they're trying to get in despite their ban. And Hogan has to sprint to the back to go take care of business. Anything you want to add to that segment, Kyle? Or
no, other than... I still can't for the life of me understand what Zodiac's reasoning for existing is. But other than that, it was an interesting little, video about what's going on. So yeah, that was pretty much all I had to talk about that.
Zodiac's really he's a weird character. I don't know. It's just Hogan having his buddy Beefcake over there gave him some sort of gimmick. After that, we get another Halloween Havoc preview, and they say the man who's had his mustache shaved off versus the monster, which I just thought was entertaining. Really playing off this whole mustache shaving ordeal. And then finally we get to our main event, which was, of course, pushed last week. It's the steel cage match with Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Oh, wait, no, we don't. We got another Halloween Havoc promo right beforehand. And then they show Pepe finally makes his appearance on the show in the commentary booth.
Which is weird. It's not the end. It's not the beginning. Pepe is just peppered in wherever.
Right? Yeah, and here he is wearing a bear sweater and like a homemade Chicago Bears football helmet. So he's rocking that. The Rosemont police show up, let him know that Hogan and Giant are being kept apart, and it's cause they need what Heenan refers to as more police needed here than when they busted Capone or Dillinger. So a lot of police needed here. They cut to the ring. Arn's already there, and Kyle, there's not much. I don't know how much you want to talk about this match itself. For me, the first thing I noticed is this cage seemed really short. Did you notice that? It seemed like where Flair and Arn are standing in the ring, and you could reach over and touch the top of the cage. It's got to be
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when I know that Flair and Hogan had a cage match right when I think Hogan came to WCW, and I don't remember if the cage was impressively built for that match because it's Hogan and it's a big match. I think it just came down to, all right, it's Flair and Arn again. Let's just kind of patchwork up this cage. It definitely looked like it was some shoddy work that, once again, everything just seemed rushed in this episode.
Yeah, it really did. And the cage itself, of course, that's chain link sort of style cage, not that blue cage, which I think we'll probably see from the WWF in an upcoming episode. After that, though, they do cut in and out of commercial. And during the break, Kyle, you noted that they showed one of the biggest spots of the entire match, and it occurred during the commercial break, which you always appreciate happening. Pillman, of course,
again, that's what being live is about. It happens, but it's still an egregious thing to do.
Right, absolutely. Pillman does show up, tries to climb the cage, and gets knocked off by Flair. Eventually, though, Flair goes for the figure four for the win. Arn Anderson gives him a punch. It looks like he's going to prevent that from happening, and he pins him 1, 2, 3. Wait, that's how the match ended? I was so lost. They were just casually talking at the time, and all of a sudden they get a 3-count pin. Bischoff calling that there was a foreign object used, and I'm like, what? How did you even see that? So, of course,
the thing is, he didn't respond to it at all. When it actually happened, he was just like, oh, Arn, countered the move or punched him and got out of it. And here's the pin, 1, 2, 3. He had it. Then he started complaining there was an object. I'm sorry, that is not how normal people talk. If you knew that was what was going on, you say it when you saw it.
Absolutely. So they do show it looked like he had some sort of tape on around his knuckles. Mongo says it's some sort of brass knuckles, but it looked like tape to me. So that's how it ends, of course. For me, this is a 1-star match. I was really disappointed. The cage was a letdown. The match was short. And the ending just seemed weird to me. I was not happy. Kyle, what about you?
Maybe I gave this more credit than it should have, and I think maybe it's because I think they had a very good match last week. And I think that the match overall that they put on was still very much what they're capable of doing. So it wasn't I don't think they phoned in this match. But I do agree that there are some disadvantages with cage matches, especially when I think that they lose a lot of their ability to have cameras showing certain things, which is why I think all of us were a little bit confused, and maybe that was on purpose, that we couldn't tell what happened until they went back and looked at the replay. But it's bad storytelling unless they deliberately wanted to go to the replay to do that, which once again I think Bischoff ruined by saying that was a foreign object. I think if they just played it off and said, "Oh, what happened? Wow, that was weird." Flair, doesn't just get knocked out from a punch to the face. He's a fucking professional wrestler.
Right.
Their job is to take punches to the face. And so I feel like Bischoff shouldn't have run his mouth about it if that was the case. Also, Flair also recovers very well and rips apart Bischoff's headset to issue a new match. So
he sure does. Yeah, so that's kind of what happens after this is Flair does goes to the.
By the way, I said 2.5 stars, but I maybe I'll change my mind and say 2.
No, it is what it is, whatever you feel. But yeah, then like you said, Flair does call out Pillman and Arn Anderson, challenges him to a match next week. Says even if I got to go 2-on-1, I'm going to do it. He does break Bischoff's headset in the process, which I thought was entertaining. Then we kind of close the show. The commentary discusses the Hogan and Giant situation again. Of course, why not? And Pepe's gone. Mongo's stuttering. Life is normal. Then they talk about next week on Nitro. You got DDP will be on there, which I think is going to be... Is that his Nitro debut for us, Kyle?
I think this is the first time we're going to see him. He's a TV champion, which is a crazy thing. We haven't seen the TV champion on TV.
That is funny. He'll be wrestling Johnny B. Bad. Maybe we can finally hear why he missed his U.S. title match. After that, we were going to see Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit, which just could be, match of the year and would be down the line, I'm sure. But you got Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Ming, so this card just gets better and better. And then, of course, your main event is going to be Flair and a Mibby mystery partner versus Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman. Kyle, your final thoughts on Nitro?
I thought it was a pretty fun Nitro. It showcased, 2 matches that lasted 3 minutes combined, one of which involving one of your biggest players in Sting, which is kind of shitty. But you did have some major stars on the. You did have most of the major stars on the show, so there was no lack in star power, and it kind of made up for the whatever matches outside of Sabu and Mr. JL, who actually they put on a pretty good show. I also had to get a really quick shout out to Heenan's little rant about Hulkamania. I thought that was actually very well done, and he actually, I think, did speak in a way that I think a lot of people actually honestly do feel, and I think that does get in the ears of Bischoff about talking about making Hogan turn heel in less than a year from now.
Interesting thoughts. For me, I was disappointed the matches all around. Too short. Steel cage match was a big letdown. The Hogan and Giant storyline, though, continues to be the best thing that's happening on there. And they're really, they're showcasing their world titles, so props to that. But meanwhile, the U.S. title is suffering. Sting needs to get involved with something because right now has no match at Halloween Havoc. So curious to see what happens there. That's going to be Nitro in a nutshell, and now we can move over to Raw. So we get our opening of of course, that Cops ripoff segment that Raw uses as their opening. It still sucks, but hey,
still sucks really bad.
And we're opening right up with the 6-man tag match of Yoko, Owen, British Bulldog versus Shawn Michaels, Diesel, and The Undertaker, which kind of surprised me a little bit, Kyle. This was, of course, billed. This was promoted from the week before. I thought this was going to be their main event. And I wonder now. I wonder now if this is going to be sort of their way. They're trying to do what Nitro did. Sometimes put the best match on first to get the viewership over there.
I guess just you quoting Tony Schiavone, put the butts in the seats, and then hopefully no one changes the channel. And then once you got them hooked, it's like throw them filler for the rest of the time. We already got them.
Right, which is pretty much what this show does. But before the match starts, we get a recap of Shawn spending some time Shawn Michaels, that is, spending some time in Washington, D.C. for the 98% attendance record for the school district there. Good for them, I guess.
I had a good attendance record. I never got to meet Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, no kidding. I got to say, Shawn was very emotional and choked up during this segment. Really, I don't understand why these people want to see me. I'm a nobody, that kind of thing. Which surprised me a little bit because this is an era where Michaels is known to be basically a dickhead in the back. No one, a lot of people didn't like working with him because he was just wanted to get his way. He's kind of a crybaby, sort of just, very selfish. So kind of interesting to see that side of him, at the time. And, then we go to the match itself. Yoko, Owen, and Bulldog are already in the ring. So that doesn't bode well for the heels when they don't even get their entrances. But hey, it is what it is. They do mention on commentary that the 3 men in the ring are representing 3 different countries, and then Undertaker comes out and Vince mentions that he represents the dark side. So I was really entertained by that. Kyle, you mentioned Shawn and Diesel come down separately. I think that's like you kind of noted here, just a way to promote their music and get them all their own time as opposed to them coming out as a
their own
tag
separate
team.
pops instead of branding them as a tag team in a sense. They're buddies, but they are singles fighters.
Right. As far as this match, it kind of once things settle down, Yokozuna and Undertaker are in the ring, and for 2 big men, I was incredibly impressed with the way these two were moving. I felt it was very fast. I thought it was the best Yokozuna's looked since we've been watching. He drops a Samoan drop. He does like a swinging rock bottom at one point. really impressed with how quickly he was moving around and how he looked, because I felt like before he moved a little bit slow and was not into it, but I thought he was into this match.
I feel like he's always had a small sliver of agility because of him being just a fat Samoan. And all the Samoans just have kind of like a stealth speed to them, and we'll actually see that later on when Fatu fights. Right. And but yeah, Yoko's like 600 pounds, but even when he was a little bit smaller, in like 94, 90, in like 93, 94, when he was like the world champion, when he was like maybe like 480, 500 pounds, he always had a little bit of a spring in his step, and he was still surprisingly athletic for a huge man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the match is interrupted as they cut to the entranceway because Waylon Mercy's here.
That's the second time now.
The second time he just shows up watching a match, and I thought then our theory that maybe this is his thing. He just creeps on matches. But they do mention then on commentary, Vince says that he has a non-title match against Diesel on Superstars this week, so kind of makes a little more sense then, and that's why he's here. After that, though, we get some USA chants because eventually it was going to happen when you have 3 foreign heels in the ring, right? And then Dean Douglas shows up and takes some notes, which then he's doing his thing. So apparently Dean Douglas and Waylon Mercy like to come out and watch other matches, so I guess it's good for them. They must really appreciate the product.
Yeah, the only thing that was missing was I said I don't mean to spoil, but I'm like, where's Mabel and Sir Mo going to show up and have their time to watch the match too?
Right, no kidding. Kyle, then you had a little Earl Hebner spot you wanted to mention.
Yeah, so there was a point where HBK's in the ring with Owen, and that's pretty much most of the match after this is going to be HBK just taking turns getting everybody's like signature moves being done to him, just getting his ass kicked. Classic gang up in a 6-man tag with the vulnerable face trying to get the hot tag. That's a pretty classic thing that you do. But during this time, Owen is in the ring putting an abdominal stretch on HBK. And then you've got that move, which I've never understood why it hurts so much. But Owen goes and grabs Bulldog's hand by the ropes, and Bulldog is pulling to add some more torque, supposedly, to the abdominal stretch.
To help stretch it more, yeah.
Yeah, help stretch more. And Earl Hebner doesn't notice it, and they do it a couple of times. And then Earl finally notices it, and Earl does this glorious, like, NFL punter kick. He totally
full
sold
rotation
it.
On that guy, yeah.
Yeah, like he nailed this, and he actually got a decent pop from the crowd. That was Earl Hebner's like shining moment of athleticism, and I loved it. And don't be surprised if that is the artwork for this episode.
So after that, though, to your point, Kyle, it's mostly a 3-on-1. The heels are basically teaming up against Shawn Michaels, both all at the same time, and then individually tagging, keeping Michaels, away from his corner. Just good strategy, good ring psychology there. And obviously it makes sense with Shawn being the, most athletic of the 3 faces to be able to be in the ring the longest. So that happens for a while. They do mention then that Jerry the King Lawler was on American Online chatting with all the hackers out there the night before, or earlier that day maybe, and that Shawn Michaels would be on tomorrow. So I got to say, as someone who was on America Online, I missed out on those chats, and I'm kind of disappointed I was not around for the to be one of the hackers to speak with the King. And then Owen Hart goes to the top rope. He jumps off to do this huge splash, and they cut to commercial.
Which is it's completely unacceptable for pre-production, non-live wrestling.
Yes, it was absurd. And this is, by the way, is the 4th commercial break we've had since the show started. So a lot of commercial breaks, it felt like. But then after that, Diesel finally does get tagged in. He starts to get kind of trying to have his way against the 3 heels. And as soon as it looks like he's about to gain control, Owen Hart hits him in the back from the outside, and he stumbles into a power slam from the Bulldog. He's getting ready to get pinned. Taker breaks up the pin, but then gets distracted. Yokozuna drops a leg on Diesel, and British Bulldog gets the 1-2-3 count. For me, I gave it 3 stars. I thought this was a very solid match. I thought the commercial breaks kind of cut away at weird times, but I thought Yokozuna looked great. I thought everybody looked really good in this match for the most part. And I love the fact that they had British Bulldog, who is challenging Diesel for the world title at the upcoming In Your House. He got the 3 count on the world champion. I thought it was a great way to further that story. What do you think?
Yep, I agree. Good storytelling. We've got everyone involved in the In Your House that's making an impact at some point. Obviously, there are some extracurriculars after the match. We'll talk about that. And also, in the end, Diesel jobs to British Bulldog. And that's, once again, I agree. That's a good job. That is what you're supposed to do to actually create some peril and some
interest
job
with that
into a match. Exactly. And then, the heel's just getting that heat. I also noticed that I think Yokozuna's finishing move around this time is that leg drop.
He does the Banzai drop a little bit, but it does seem like the leg drop he moved to as the finisher at this point, because I think the Banzai drop is hurting people.
Well, and also, I think it's just because he's so heavy now. He's like over 100 pounds more than what he's normally used to. And I think that it becomes just a little bit more dangerous for him to do to accidentally screw up. You do not want a 600-pound man landing accidentally like on your face or something.
No, you don't. And if you go to YouTube and look up, there's a couple of people that look like they got absolutely head splattered by that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, speaking of murder, after the match, of course, the heels basically start murdering all the baby faces. King Mabel comes out, attacks The Undertaker, and with Yokozuna's help, the two of them kind of team up. Dean Douglas comes out and attacks Shawn Michaels. Of course, this is furthering all the In Your House storylines that are coming up. While Dean is attacking Shawn Michaels on the outside, he gets attacked by a blonde woman in the front row. She's slapping the shit out of him. I thought it was hysterical.
Good for her.
Yeah. She likes her boy Shawn, and she was not taking any Dean's crap. That's for sure. Eventually, we cut to commercial. They come back, and all the baby faces are hurt. Not moving, that kind of thing in the ring. So we cut away, and we see a recap of Bret Hart and Jean-Pierre's great match from last week, which of course leads to Jerry Lawler taunting Hart, which led to Isaac Yankem attacking Hart, which of course Lawler on commentary says this was all part of his plan. And they mention now that Bret Hart versus Isaac Yankem steel cage match is happening next week. I know we talked about it last week that it was coming up in a couple of weeks, and I thought Nitro jumped them by putting it this week, and that's sure enough what they did. They must have known it was coming up in 2 weeks, put their steel cage match up a week ahead of time. But with how crappy that one turned out, I think WWF can really capitalize on a better steel cage match. That said, after that, we get a SummerSlam match replay, and this kind of disappointed me, Kyle. They basically were showing the Bret Hart-Isaac Yankem match in progress, and it was just a way to push this Hart-Yankem match for next week. They show it not in its entirety, but they basically show the second half of the match and discuss what's happening in there. And for me, the best part about all this was King's commentary, because King, being the heel who hates Hart, he did well talking over himself in this match, making comments like, "Oh, did you see that right there? Bret Hart must have said something about my mom. That's why I yelled at him." And Vince, of course, saying that.
Or he was saying something like, "Oh, I noticed that his head was stuck in between the ropes, and I was lifting his legs up so
I was
that
trying to help him out."
Choking.
Yeah, exactly. So classic heel work. That's the best part about all this. I'm not even going to rate this part, Kyle, because it was a match we've already talked about. The only other thing I want to add, though, that the stipulation, Gorilla Monsoon said if Lawler interferes in this cage match next week, he's going to be stuck and suspended in a shark cage next week. So little added stipulation. Anything you want to add to this SummerSlam replay, or anything with this Hart-Lawler-Yankem situation?
So full disclosure, I hardly watched the SummerSlam replay. I felt that was something that was not part of the real Raw. I think this was a complete lack of content for the show. This was an easy Band-Aid to make sure that they had an hour-long show or a 45-minute show or whatever the heck you want to say. I didn't appreciate it, to be completely honest. I understand they're like, "Oh, hey, we're going to give you a free SummerSlam show," and it's kind of like in progress.
It's a month later, too.
Yeah. Like, I don't care. Well, first of all, I don't really care. It's not that big a deal, and you just basically you're giving me nothing. Especially whoever would actually go.
And it wasn't
to
a
that
classic
show.
match either. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no winner. It was like a DQ match. Honestly, I actually was a bit upset that was part of the show.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. But luckily, Kyle, they saved it with what turns out to be their main event. And this is Skip Donna with
a.k.a.
Sonny.
Jobber 2.0, loses to Barry Horowitz, Skip Donna.
Yep, wrestling Fatu.
Rikishi, for those that don't know.
For those of you who don't know, it's Rikishi before he got super fat. He was only kind of like partially fat Rikishi.
He looked like a normal Samoan.
Yeah, that's
this
fair.
One. Because I think he's what, the father of the Usos. He looked like a bigger Uso.
Yeah. Kyle, what were your thoughts on this match?
So it was actually kind of cool. I liked, too cool almost, that get it? Okay, anyways. So I felt that it was cool because I didn't know that Fatu really had much of a career before he became Rikishi. So that was it was kind of just cool to see a younger version of Fatu.
It was, yeah.
He's dancing with the ref. He actually got the ref to start dancing with them, and I thought to myself,
there's definitely signs of Rikishi even back when.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the same, almost the same dance moves.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, even his like outfit felt very too coolish in some aspects.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then I think the thing that I thought was funny was they go to commercial before the match. Before Rikishi comes or Fatu comes down, and then Fatu comes down to the ring, and then they take another commercial break. Like this has been just a completely just egregious use of commercial breaks. Apparently, somebody owed somebody money.
The entire show is that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Fatu is being funny. He's kind of being entertaining, dancing around. Kind of flirting with Sonny. Kind of. Skulking around with her on the outside. I did notice that Skip had one point where he did a decent move and went for a count or went for a pin, and the ref did the slowest count known to man. And I was like, oh man, that's because Fatu was just teaching that guy dance moves, and he's no longer an impartial ref.
Fatu needs to teach Nick Patrick how to referee.
Oh yeah, this is true. And Skip Donna does the most unforgivable thing. This is rule number 1 of wrestling, everybody. And that is simply, you do not headbutt a Samoan. He went for the skull, I think 5 separate times, did one regular headbutt, which obviously he because he knows this rule. Because that's the thing, we say this to say, hey, you're not supposed to do it, but he did act it out like you're not supposed to. So it's not like he did a headbutt and then didn't sell the fact that you're not supposed to headbutt a Samoan. He also does a closed fist punch to the head, which he also kind of shakes his hand like
he did one off the top rope.
Yeah, that's what happened. So he went, his biggest part of the biggest spot for Skip was he went to the top rope and did a headbutt. Something I don't think he's ever done in any of his moves.
Not just the headbutt, he did a flying fist bump off the top too. He did a fist punch off the top and shook his hand afterwards. He kept attacking the head, which I love that Vince kept saying, he's an idiot. What an idiot.
What an idiot. And yeah, basically that's what happened. He went for that top rope headbutt, and that's when Fatu started fighting back because clearly he's impervious to blows to the head. And I think the ending was Sonny does a distraction fast enough that Skip takes the advantage. He tries to superplex a 300-pound man, and shockingly, he can't do it. Fatu knocks him to the ground and gives him a Jimmy Snuka splash, which actually looked really good. And that was it. 1, 2, 3. I think we got one back body drop in this one as well, which I always have to give credit to. And then I feel like you're looking after the what a maneuver, and I'm looking for the back body drop.
I think so. Yeah.
Vince pops, and then But yeah, it was an okay match. Once again, Skip is now a glorified jobber, which is unfortunately for Candido because he's actually a very good wrestler. And
Candido had a rough run in WWF between being a jobber and Sonny. I
feel like there are we can make a list of all the very good talents that I think WWF never really took advantage of.
Right. Oh, I'm sure you could do that all over the place, but
sure.
What was your rating on this match?
2 stars.
2 stars. Yeah, I gave it 2.25. For me, the best part was the fact that they were playing on the whole lore that a Samoan's head is made of titanium or something, and they kept doing it, and it just cracked me up every time Vince called Skip an idiot. But But it was nice to see skinny Rikishi as well. So,
well, skinny for his for a Samoan.
Relatively skinny, yeah, right.
I don't think you're going to find skinny Samoans. They're all thick.
Yeah, I mean, unless you look at like The Rock or Roman Reigns
he's not a full blood. He's not from both. His mom and dad are both
That's
not
true.
Samoans.
What about Roman Reigns? Roman Reigns isn't he full?
I think I have to look it up. I think he is not, but I know that he's. Maybe when we talk about the next thing, I'll look it up. I know he's part of that family. I know that The Rock is his uncle.
Well, but you're right. I mean, even there's a bunch. Even like the Usos are slimmer in retrospect to the rest of the Samoans, but
sure. But once again, they are still they're not guys that are going to sport abs anytime soon.
No. So that's it for that match. After this, they've got they show Doc Hendricks kind of pacing around nervously near a locker room. They're yelling for him, but they say, "Oh, we've got audio problems. He can't hear us." And they cut to commercial. I thought that was a strange way to cut to commercial. I don't know. I just it's being pre-produced or post-produced.
You need more commercials.
Yeah, but it was just weird. Like, why say we're having audio problems? Why don't they just say, "Oh, we'll talk to him after this break" or something? I don't know. Just seems strange. We come back from commercial and they recapped what happened 20 minutes ago with Taker, HBK, and Diesel getting attacked. Then they go back to Doc Hendricks. He said this is not a good time. He said he walked into the locker room. Shawn Michaels collapsed. Diesel lost his cool, and Undertaker had the wind knocked out of his sails, which seems like something I would never hear the Undertaker ever say in a million years, but that's what the doc said. So they cut to Jim Ross, who interviews Jim Cornette with the British Bulldog. And, of course, Cornette cutting a promo about how happy he is. Bulldog did something that no one else could do. He pinned Diesel 1, 2, 3. Bulldog talks about how he's going to take the title back to England. Brings up his match against Bret Hart at SummerSlam 92. Which apparently this is just their way of saying British Bulldog can win a big match on a pay-per-view, because this is the second time now in 2 weeks we've heard about Bulldog's win over Hart, which happened 3 years ago. But hey,
I feel like the only reason why they do that now is because they're trying to push Bulldog to make him feel like, hey, I'm a legitimate wrestler. I beat Bret Hart in front of over 80,000 people at the Wembley Stadium. Yes, that's his crowning achievement, and if Bulldog were still alive today, he'd still tell the story.
I don't know if that's a crowning achievement or that hat that he was wearing. That might be the better crowning achievement.
I mean, it was given to him by Princess Diana, apparently. Mabel then walks in and calls Bulldog his homie, which cracked me up. I don't know what it is. Something about Mabel calling Bulldog his homie just brings a smile to my face. Now, was that Mabel? Do you think that was Mabel's idea, or do you think Vince, in some sort of ratio stereotypical idea, was like, "I want you to come in there and just talk about how he's your homie and your dog"? I'm like, please tell me that was Vince. And Mabel's like, "Oh, fine."
Yeah, that would not shock me one bit. And then Mabel, of course, does say he's going to bury Undertaker in a pile of snow. Of course, remembering that we're going to be in the Great White North in Winnipeg, I believe, for this upcoming In Your House. Then we cut back to Vince and Lawler closing out the show. They discuss the Isaac Yank and Bret Hart match again, reiterating that Lawler cannot interfere or he's going to get the shark cage. And they close with a little pre-done promo, again promoting that steel cage match for next week. Kyle, what were your final thoughts on Raw?
If you're a fan of wrestling matches, I hope you enjoyed all 2 of them. The 6-man was definitely a good match. I can't take that away from it. It was probably the best match of the 2 shows. I think you would agree too.
Absolutely.
From especially from the match itself was fine, but there was good chemistry in the ring, good in-ring psychology. That they did a good job doing.
And it told a good story at the end. I mean, having Diesel pin Bulldog or having Bulldog pin Diesel. Yeah, no.
So, but the problem is that they better start learning their lesson real soon, because this is going to get this whole Nitro versus WCW versus WWF war is only going to start getting worse. This is as far as what I remember, and was watching WWF during this time. I believe this pay-per-view was a real big failure. like a catastrophic failure as far as the card is concerned. Like nothing good came of it. So I know that at some point there is a turning point with all of this, but you cannot end with Fatu versus Skip Donna. You cannot do that. That is, I don't understand this whole idea of, have a good starting match. Have a good ending match too. You can't just have two matches and expect one of them to be shit. So you can't carry the momentum of one match to have that be, okay, that's enough. Let's go talk about some old SummerSlam episode or a SummerSlam match. Go to a match that has no real ramifications in Fatu and Candido, and then have the rest of the time being taken up with just really weird, random, and at some points completely like uncalled for commercial breaks. And it was just all they were doing was dragging the show out, and you could tell. So overall, I was very disappointed in Raw. Yeah,
I'm pretty much agreement with you. Everything you said, I'm not gonna reiterate it too much. Thought that opening match was great. Thought they told a good story, and then I thought the show fell flat after that. Didn't need to replay the SummerSlam match, and Skip and Fatu should not have main event Raw. Just felt weak overall. That said, Kyle, who won this week for you?
I feel from a total from a show. If you're going to watch an hour-long show, Nitro definitely wins. Raw may have had the best match, but once again, poorly timed commercial breaks on a pre-produced show, and an overall lack of anything else outside of an overall lack of anything else outside of the match made the show kind of a waste to watch after that match ended. There was nothing else you needed to know to go into next week's Raw after that match was over. So Nitro at least kept the action going, even though some of the matches may have been a little flat. Hell, some of them were very, very short. But in the end, there was something worth watching from the beginning until the end.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Pretty much Nitro was the better show, but not by much. I didn't love Nitro. I thought I was disappointed in the ending for Nitro, but I thought it told better stories throughout, and it was an overall better show. Raw was really bad. Outside of that 6-man tag to open, which was pretty good, the rest of the show was just bad. So I'm going to give the edge to Nitro, but I don't feel great about it. That said, the Nielsen ratings, Nitro was up to a 2.6, which was up from a 2.5 last week. Raw was a 2.6, which was up from a 2.5 last week. So both went up 0.1. Both were the same. I guess it was a draw this week. And that's going to be the show.
So one thing we didn't mention, I wanted to hurry up and talk about real quick. We are going to also start seeing Phantom of the Opera Undertaker. I don't know if people remember Undertaker wearing that gray-looking mask for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever back in the day. There's actually a couple of like limited edition like posters and action figures of it. But during that onslaught after that match, where we mentioned that Mabel and Yokozuna kind of beat up on the Undertaker, which, by the way, you know what one thing I love about Undertaker when he takes those beatings? Do you notice that he just lays prone? He does not move his arms. He doesn't sell anything. He just looks like he's dead. It looks like he is a lifeless body just being destroyed. And even during all of that, he never moved. He never broke character. And Mabel fractured his orbital bone with a shitty leg drop. And
props.
That is and there's a lot of shoot interviews out there. I think Diesel talks about it, as does the Undertaker, that Mabel was a dangerous person to wrestle against. He will hurt you, and it's one of those things where he's not a refined wrestler. He's basically a big fat black guy that just can't control. It's just a hard thing for him to control. And that's another thing about why Yokozuna is a Hall of Famer. He's a 600-pound man that does not hurt, that for the most part can do those leg drops. He's very refined in the ring. He knows what he's doing. You can trust him in the ring, but not Mabel. And we will see, I believe, next week. I'm not sure if The Undertaker's on the show, but one thing they also meant that I was reading up on was he probably would have taken some time off the show in order to heal from this, because that's a kind of a decent injury. But because of how close Nitro and Raw were being, and how serious this was starting to become, they really couldn't afford to lose someone like him on television, especially or any kind of decent storyline. So that's why they gave him the mask, because I guess Undertaker was on a little bit of a leave right around the time that we started watching these Raws and Nitros. He was gone because of a family emergency, so he was on leave for a couple of weeks. Now he's back, and then we're talking 5 weeks later, he gets injured. Like, that's just not good timing. And Undertaker is a company man. Like, he'll do what needs to happen in order for him to stay on the show.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. And we're company men because we're going to promote our show on iTunes and Google Play. Go subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, go do that. Give us a follow. Give us a review. Let us know what we're doing. And follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at the Monday Night Tour. We're on Facebook, Monday Night Tours, Instagram as well. We'd like to post and tweet out there and interact with you guys. So let us know what you think about the show. And go to MondayNightTours.com if you want to find any and all of that, as well as previous shows, in case you don't subscribe to iTunes or Google Play. And that said, go watch the October 16th, 1995 editions of Raw Nitro, and we'll be back next week to discuss what's next with Hogan and Giant, and more importantly, who's winning that steel cage match, and is Jerry Lawler going to end up in the shark cage? My guess is yes.
I don't think they would waste that stipulation. And I think the other thing we're looking forward to is hopefully these Raws and Nitros overall, the quality is better this week.
Absolutely.
Or next week.
For Kyle Hoagland, I am Josh Kaiser. We will see you guys next time on the Monday Night Tours.
Have a good Tuesday. See ya.